All right, well, Ryan, thanks very much for hopping on. First guest here of 2026, and yeah, a real privilege to sit down and chat. And hope you've been enjoying your summer here back home in New Zealand. I mean, just to kick things off, obviously keen to sort of dive into your thoughts on our golf courses here in New Zealand and sort of the courses that shaped you to the golfer that you are now. So I understand you're a little bit of a late starter in golf compared to a lot of the tour pro guys, relatively. So talk me through when you started golf, and I believe Whitford Park, looking back through your golf NZ, was a big part of those early years for you.
Yeah, so like I always had clubs as a kid, but I never took golf seriously till I was like 18. My first year of uni, I gave up rugby and cricket and decided I'd play a couple of tourneys. And absolutely loved it, and that was me. And didn't turn pro till I was like 25. So yeah, compared to the tour pros, well, most of my peers, you got guys on tour winning at 21, 22 now, and I was playing amateur golf at that point, but a little bit behind them, but certainly not complaining about the course of my career so far. But yeah, like I always had clubs as a kid. I used to get dragged around with dad occasionally to corporate days when I was allowed to. And then we lived out in Beachlands, which is pretty close to Formosa, but I ended up joining Whitford where a couple of my mates had played. And I've still got a group of mates that I've played golf with since we were like 12 or 13 when we first joined Whitford together. And yeah, still play with them today. All the guys are at Royal Auckland now, but we played a lot at Whitford back in the day, and that was a pretty fun golf course. I think it certainly got better as the years went past. It used to be bone dry in summer and very wet in winter in a valley, and they spent a lot of money putting Cooch fairways in, and it really changed the golf course. They always had great greens, but Cooch made it playable all year round, and I think it's one of the underrated courses probably in New Zealand, definitely in Auckland. It does get a lot of play, but it's generally not counted as one of those courses that's a must play. But I think it's a really good challenge, and now it's always in pretty good nick, especially with a relatively skeleton green staff compared to most courses around. And it was a fun place to grow up, and it probably didn't suit my game that much. It was narrow, and you had to drive it pretty good, and I generally either drove it straight or really, really wide, which actually got away with a little bit around there. Ended up getting pretty good from someone else's fairway, but it was a fun course to grow up in. Used to find a lot of golf balls around the hazards as juniors, which is always a bit of fun. Stuff around the practice green. They had a kind of a nice practice fairway as well, which we used to stuff around on Sundays. And then when I started taking golf a bit more seriously, I went my last couple of years. I went to school at King's and joined Royal Auckland, obviously right across the fence there, and played a little bit of school golf for Kings. I think I played a year of pennants for Whitford, and then moved over and played basically all my representative golf out of Royal Auckland, which is obviously pretty nice place to play, and pretty easy to get on, a little bit less busy. It was always in great nick and great greens, and had some decent practice facilities as well. So I was pretty lucky growing up to have a couple of really good courses to play.
Definitely. And interesting with Royal Auckland, I guess the component that probably when you first joined there, I imagine it was probably still just Auckland Golf Club, and now
Yeah.
obviously it's got the Royal moniker and it's had the amalgamation with the Grange Golf Club, and the full kind of redo with Nicholas Design coming in. Talk to me, sort of looking afar from afar with that redevelopment. I mean, obviously it's now sort of a world class facility, especially for good golfers trying to sharpen the tools, but must be great for you to come back and have a bit of a base there when you're back in the country.
Yeah, it's brilliant. They've been really good to me over the years. I played a lot of pennants out of there. Obviously, I think we won a pennants one year in like I want to 07 or 08 or something like that. And we had a pretty stacked team, which was pretty cool. And there was six of us at one point, all around the same age, all really good mates. Who played for Auckland, played for New Zealand. We're all trying to be pros. So we had a really good core group. There was always someone to play with. There was always big putting comps going on and everything like that, which was pretty awesome. And then, Obviously it's changed a fair bit since that golf course I grew up on. The It was a long process, that redesign. And we've come out the other end of it now really, really well. I think in terms of facilities, in terms of golf course, for me it's perfect. It's a challenge. I think some of the criticisms of Royal is it's a little bit too hard, it's a little bit too severe in some of the slopes around the greens, but that's what I play week in, week out on tour pretty much, and have done for a long time. And I like a bit of a challenging golf course. It's got some length off the back tees. When the greens get firm and fast, it gets really hard. You've got to control your ball well. The rough's pretty tricky. Practice facilities are great. My coach Marcus is out there as well, Marcus Wheelhouse. So I spend a decent chunk of my my time out at Royal. As I said, all the mates that I grew up playing Whitford with are now out there. So that's, I can find a game with them when I'm home and play a little bit of social golf. And, we've still got some decent golfers out there. All my mates that were trying to play professional golf are still out there playing recreationally now as well. Guys like Ben Wallace, Fraser Wilkins coaching out there now. Mark Speedy's still there. There's still a really core group of, I want to say young, but we're all touching mid-30s to 40 now, so maybe not that young anymore, but it's it's cool to go out there and can always find a game, and can always challenge yourself pretty well around there.
And obviously there's the 3 nines there, the Tamaki, the Middlemore, and the Grange 9. Do you find yourself drawn to two of those more frequently, or do you find it's pretty even spread, and how do you sort of differentiate the 3?
I think the Middlemore 9's probably the best 9. I think when you play a composite style course, it's generally that 9 and a mixture of Tamaki and Grange. I think too, maybe aesthetically, the Middlemore 9's the most pleasing because it's got a lot of the character of the old course. So I think, certainly for me, and I think a lot of the other members feel that way, you still get that same vibe of the old golf course a little bit. There's still the same routing on a couple of holes. We've still got a lot of the trees that the old golf course had. So it's a bit more growing in. It's, as I said, a bit more aesthetically pleasing than some of the other holes on the other side. Although, the combination of those two, I think Tamaki's potentially the toughest 9. I've always struggled on Tamaki 9 to score at times. The Grange 9 I think is the easiest 9, but it's also got probably 2 or 3 of the best holes on the whole course on it. The par 3 fourth, which is on the Grange 9, that doesn't really get a look in on the composite course just because of the routing, but I think that's probably the best par 3 of the lot on the golf course. And there's a lot of good, there's 6 par 3s in the 27 holes, and I don't think there's a bad one there by any stretch, but I think that little 4th hole's just got something about it. The 6 hole's a really well-designed hole on that Grange 9. Grange 9's a great hole, and that can change very dramatically with where the pin position is, and also with the wind direction off the tee. You can hit a couple of different clubs off there. I think, as I said, the Tamaki 9's probably seems to be the hardest. That's got a couple of really tough tee shots, and it can bite you pretty quickly if you're out. And I think the Middlemore 9 is just a really good 9. They've got some strong holes. They probably fixed a couple of things that were issues on the old golf course, like the old 15th, which is now Middlemore 5. It's a 500-yard or 450-meter par 4, but it always used to be like almost unfair with the little ridge in the middle of the fairway, and it all kicked to the right, and they kind of softened it a little bit, but made the green a little trickier. And there's a bit more trouble, but it's also, you've got a little bailout to the left for the second shot. So I think the Nicholas Company and Chris Cochran, who did the design, did a really, really good job. I think the early criticism, as I said earlier, it was probably a lot of the members thought it was a bit too hard. But it's now got, I think everyone's realised you've got to use your handicap around there. the old golf course, there wasn't much thought around a lot of the holes. It was kind of whack it down there, and then kind of hit your third shot from wherever you were. Whereas now there's a few more forced carries. There's like 50 yards from the green's almost the worst place you can be on the hole. So, like, to be playing a bit smarter is worthwhile around there, but it just obviously, when you're so used to playing one style of golf, all of a sudden when you've got to think about where you've got to hit it and place your ball a little bit better, it took a little while for the members to get that. Took a little while for them to get used to the cooch around the greens and the severity of the slope, and potentially having to chip a little bit more and than what they used to. And most of the old golf course, there was a lot of like little chipping out of the rough. Now it's that tight stuff out of the cooch, so it's taken a while for people to get used to that. But it's a great facility there. I do love going out there. I love, as I said, I love testing myself out there. We've had a couple of pro-ams there, and we've set it up pretty tough a couple of times, and no one's broken par. Set it up a little bit easier at the back end of last year, and a few of us did break par, thankfully. But it's nice to play a golf course like that. That if I'm going to go play a few tough courses on tour, if I can play well around Royal, I can generally compete pretty well on tour.
Definitely, and yeah, it was interesting to see the scores from your invitational you had there recently. I think Nick Vogt went pretty low by the look, so it's pretty good stuff. And obviously the big news recently being announced that there's an Australasian Tour event coming through there early March, so pretty exciting for the membership, obviously, and going to be interesting to see what the scoring and how the course is set up. Hoping to get up there and take a look at the course just before that, just to see how it's all shaping up. But it's obviously exciting. And, you talked there about turning pro in 2012 when you're about, 25, so later than most. But how did you feel that, like, the New Zealand golf courses sort of set you up for pro golf around the world? Because obviously we've had a lot of new courses open since then, many of which are probably a little bit harder, a little bit longer. But how did you feel that all kind of set you up when you started your pro career?
Yeah, I think we're in a different place now, golf course wise, than when I turned pro 15 years ago. Near on that, we had a lot of golf courses that were short and super tight, but you could always a lot of the time get away with a big miss. You could a lot of the time, like what I said about Whitford, you could get away with missing it in the other fairway. Like one side might be really penal, but the other side might be, some trees, and you kind of get away with the trees. Or if you hit it over the trees, you'd have a shot back towards the green. And it took a while, not playing amateur golf, for New Zealand and stuff, traveling away, to get used to playing almost standalone holes. You never had that bailout. It became like you had to hit it either, like in New Zealand, I felt like you had to hit it straight or almost really wide. Whereas overseas, you're almost better like that little miss was very manageable, but the big miss wasn't. And it probably took a little bit to get used to that, playing like tour level golf courses, amateur golf and professional golf and stuff like that. We definitely didn't have the length of golf courses we played on tour, but to be honest, length was never really an issue for me, so I didn't really bother me if we went overseas and played a golf course that was 6,800 meters, something like that. 7,000, play a bunch that are 7,000 meters, 7,700 yards, kind of thing. Like, yeah, there's some long holes, but it never felt like it was too scary. Whereas I think some of my peers growing up, when we went and played some big boy golf courses, for want of a better term, like that was a shock to the system. Compared to some of the courses we played. Even going to Aussie, like Aussie's got some really good courses, but we were lucky enough to play a bunch of courses around the sandbelt, and you don't have to hit it that far around the sandbelt, places like that. You've got to control your ball really, really well, but you'd get away with kind of running it down fairways and having a good flight. And I used to hit 2-iron a lot around courses like that, and going to play courses in America and other places where all of a sudden that you needed to bang driver and you needed to hit it relatively straight. That the straight part was a bit of a shock to me, but the long part was a bit of a shock to some of the other guys that I grew up playing with. And I think we're in a better place now. We do have some much more challenging golf courses, some much more more world class golf courses than what we did when I was coming up, and that's pretty cool to see. And I think we're we're turning ourselves into a real golfing destination now. Like there is a buzz around people wanting to come to New Zealand and play golf because we've got so many good golf courses, and that's we had a couple when I turned pro, but in the last 15 years we've really upped our game in that sense, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. And obviously, front and center in a lot of those changes is Te Arai Links, which is obviously a set of courses that you're an ambassador of, and get to play a bunch when you're back here, which is obviously a great place to just nip away from Auckland and have a couple of rounds of golf. But talk to me about that relationship with Te Arai Links in terms of must have been pretty exciting seeing that facility come to fruition, what it is now, and then obviously getting to play at a bunch. We'll cover in a bit more detail shortly, but I know you've got a couple of course records around there. I know Josh Geary, where we were at an event recently, did have a 61 on the north, but it does have a little asterisk next to it because I think it was left clean in place. But talk to me about Te Arai Links and just what it's like to get out there pretty regularly.
Yeah, obviously, I'm very lucky in that regard to be an ambassador for them. It's just a special place to go to. Obviously, it's a bit more of a trip. It's about an hour from my house compared to probably 20 something minutes to Royal. So, it's a bit of a treat to go up there. But if I want to take anyone anywhere to play, that's where I go. If it's a charity game or something that I'm hosting, or want to treat some mates, we always go to Te Arai. And there's 2 world-class golf courses there now. I was lucky to be able to play it, very early on. I've played a bit with Rick. Know Rick Kane relatively well. Played a bunch of golf with Jim Rawstaff and a few of the other pros up there. Jesse and John. And got to play Te Arai South before it had opened. And then Jim came and said, "Hey, look, we'd like you to be an ambassador," and jumped at the chance to be able to do that. And have it on my bag, and it's a really recognised logo. Obviously, Tahiti's probably the one that everyone asks about overseas. I think that's just because it's been around a little longer and it's been a bit higher ranked in some of the ratings around the world. But there's a massive buzz around Te Arai, and to be able to come back and play a course like that, as a member and as an ambassador is amazing. And it's two different golf courses up there. The South spectacular, probably a bit more straightforward, a bit more in front of you, whereas the North is, there's a bit more going on. It's a bit closer to Tahiti. Obviously, it's got the same designer, and Tom Doak, and I like that you can go up there and play 2 very different golf courses, and they play very different in the wind directions you get. And from when they opened a few years ago, they've firmed up, they've quickened up, which exactly what you want up there for links style golf. Obviously, the South course has got the Asia Pacific coming next year, which is amazing, and I'm really looking forward to just like for the event at Royal, for the Australasian and Japan event, seeing how they set that course up. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they set Te Arai South up. Like, it's generally regarded as not being overly difficult, but I feel like in the day-to-day setup of the golf course, they make sure it's very playable. Like, for a place like that, you want people to go up and enjoy themselves. It's obviously very exposed to the wind, and if you set it up really hard, it becomes a brute. Like, you don't get people coming back as much. So you want it's a links golf course. It's designed to be played in the wind. You don't need to make it brutal day in, day out. But I feel like for a tournament, you can get it fast pretty easily. It's definitely got fast, as I said, faster over the years. And playing it at the start of the summer before we had a little bit of rain, it was really firm and fast. And I think you can tuck the pins really, really well around there. Use some pins that you'd never use for day-to-day play, but for a tournament, they are more than acceptable. And all of a sudden, a good shot becomes 15 foot from the hole. You can't get it close to the hole, and if they get a little bit of wind, there'll definitely be some birdies around there. But depending on how they want to set it up, I think they can trick it up quite nicely, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with the firmness comment. I remember the first time I played it was probably maybe 2.5 years ago, the South Course that is, and comparing it to now, you kind of get out the car, you put your feet down on the practice green, you can just feel that firmness underneath, and it'll be interesting to see, like what you say, the pin locations, maybe what tees they decide to go for day to day, which I guess will be more of a conversation between the R&A and Augusta National and the team there, but obviously going to be so great for New Zealand having it televised around the world. And if we get a couple of good-looking days, there's probably no better advert for New Zealand golf tourism than that. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Although October's a
hit and
little bit
miss.
hit and miss for that,
Yeah,
but I mean, as a golfer, seeing it blow and seeing them struggle a little bit around there won't be too bad as well. It's I want to see at least one day where it's like that. You've got to actually play some links golf and flight the ball down and play the course kind of how it's designed to play.
definitely. And I think when I spoke with Jim about that just after the announcement got made, he said, yeah, I mean, one blue sky day would be great, but yeah, he'd love to see them have to sort of use their brain, work their way around how the wind's going to have a big impact, especially like what you say, if it does get firm and the pin locations are tough. So I mean, that takes me on to kind of course records. So we've been doing this pod just over 2 years and spoken to a lot of GM superintendents. And a common question is, what's the course record or what's the best round of golf you've played? And your name seems to come up with pretty great frequency. So obviously, I believe, is it 60 at the South Course at Te Arai Links, 63 at the North Course, and 61 at Taraiti? I think that's correct.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So would be keen to hear your thoughts on those. But it's just some other ones that I've been sort of looking into. I think 62 at Titirangi, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think 62 with a lost ball or a ball in a tree at Muriwai, or 61.
No, that was 64.
64 with a ball in a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've gone pretty low at Muriwai before, I believe.
Yeah, I've had a lot of like 8s and 9s at Muriwai, maybe a 10 back somewhere, maybe not in the tourney, but definitely social golf. I reckon I have a 10.
Yeah.
I can tend to get hot.
Yeah.
And make a lot of birdies and go through patches. I think I went through a patch, the 61 at Taraiti, the 60 at the South Course, and I shot 63 around the Minimal Tamaki course at Royal, all within a month of each other.
Wow.
And probably the best round of golf of all of that was a 63 at Royal. I didn't miss a shot in that. The 60 at the South Course was an absolute barn door day. And the same with the 61 at Taraiti. Like I played really, really well. I feel like Taraiti, they do very similar to what I said with the Te Arai Links courses. Like they want people to go up and have a good day, and they can set it up nicely. You can use a lot of the slopes, get the ball close to the hole, but then you go play. And I've just had the member or something like that. All of a sudden, the greens are a lot faster. They can tuck the pins, and it becomes a golf course that 69, 70 is a really good score. But if you get it on one of those days where it's a little softer, it's obviously calm, and they've got the pins in nice positions, like I feel like you can almost shoot anything around there. And I definitely had one of those days at Taraiti. I haven't played Muriwai for a while, actually, which is a bit of a shame because I've heard really good things about that. I haven't played Omaha for a while. I used to play that a lot. My in-laws used to live on that golf course. I had a few low ones around there. I remember having a couple of low ones around Titirangi. Titirangi took me years to figure out.
That's what Doug White told me. Yeah, Doug White did say that.
Like, I reckon I could have counted on one hand for about 15 years the amount of under par rounds I had at Titirangi, and then I had one day where I went out and shot 62 and gone, oh, that wasn't that hard. What was that all about? And then every time I played Titirangi since then, I've played great. Like I just figured it out for whatever reason. I think I had 63 out there the other day, 64 playing with Mitch Santner and a couple of the Black Cat boys. So got it going and shot. I had a run at Akarana. I was 8 under through 11, and I missed a 5-footer on 12 for birdie, and shot 10 for the day. So I kind of felt like I left something really low out there that day.
That was recently, was it?
That was
like November.
before I went to Aussie Open, just over a month ago. So there's a little bit of that. Like as I said, I'll go through a patch where the putter gets hot. I've done it in tourneys a few times as well. Obviously had a good run through the middle of last year where, hold some putts and, won a couple of times and had a few really good weeks in a row. But I've definitely done it in social golf where it's like just everything looks like it's going to go in, and then, drive the ball good, and it just kind of all clicks and you feel like you should birdie every hole. But yeah, I've been, lucky to be able to play a lot of the courses around, especially around Auckland. One I miss playing as well is Gulf Harbour. I used to play Gulf Harbour quite a bit. That's
Yeah, it's
about
a real
30
shame.
minutes. Had a couple of low ones around there. I think I remember playing with Luke Brown right after the Charles Tour event there. Was that 2021?
Mm.
I think I shot something stupid in the Charles Tour event, like 23 under for the week, and won that, and then went out, like, I think Muriwai was the next week, and I went out just after Muriwai with Luke Brown 2 days in a row and shot 64-60. I get 2 perfect days around Gulf Harbour. Gulf Harbour was definitely one of those courses where if you got it on a windy day, it was absolutely brutal. But if you got it on a good day, it was really scoreable. And that was one of those courses that was, I always thought that was a more championship style golf course. It was a bit severe in places with some of the hills and stuff like that. But that was one of those golf courses where you didn't have another hole to hit it on. And that used to scare me a little bit early on. And then, you play on tour and all of a sudden you get out there and go, actually, this place is pretty wide. It just never felt like that growing up. But yeah, I definitely miss playing there a little bit. That was a fun one to put in the rotation. And yeah, same. I probably need to go and play a few more of these courses around Auckland. That played Te Arai a couple of times at the back end of last year, which is the first time for a couple of years, and loved that. Need to go back and play Muriwai. I always think that's fun, and I've done a few things to that lately. Apparently, I haven't played Omaha for a few years, and apparently there's a few more changes to that are really good. So, yeah, I don't get enough time to do that anymore. But yeah, it's kind of on my to-do list at some point when I'm home in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, definitely just absolutely bullying the Auckland scene in terms of some of the scores there. But I spoke to Jim earlier today, and he touched on this with a pod that we did with him last year. But I believe that 61 at Taraiti was with Mike Weir and one of Mike's mates, and a little sort of audition for the President's Cup, perhaps. But he did tell me a story about you warning Mike just about maybe how tightly cut the fescue was, and then a little bit of a mishap on the first, which I believe you managed to get up and down. But what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so I got the invite to play with Mike from Jim. I was up in the Bay of Islands at our beach at my in-laws' beach house, and Jim rings me and say, I think I was cleaning the boat at like 10 o'clock at night in the rain, or maybe 8 o'clock at night in the rain. And Jim's like, hey, Mike's coming down on the 4th. And obviously, he was President's Cup captain. He's like, do you want to play? Or 5th or whatever it was of January. I'm like, yep, I'm in. So I hadn't played any golf for like 10 days. Go down to Taraiti, so it's always a treat to go there. And then, playing with Mike and his mate George Russell, who owns a course in Hawaii and is a member of Augusta and all of these cool things. And, talking to Mike about, how nasty the fescue is, especially early, like Taraiti's growing in a lot now. It's still tight, but it feels like it's playable now. But when it first opened, man, 50 yards from the green, that place was pretty brutal. And first full wedge shot on the golf course, and swinging a golf club in 10 days, and I think I knifed the first one over the back of the green, and I think I hold like a 10-footer for par, missed the green on the second, hold a 10-footer for par, and then I hit it to like 4 foot on the third, and then missed that, and I was like, oh, it's going to be one of these days again, is it? And then I think I just went nuts from there and shot 61, and obviously got Mike by a few that day. It was a pretty good audition for the President's Cup. It was just a shame I played like shit the rest of the year. But yeah, it was kind of nice to do it in that company, especially, it was first round of the new year, hadn't picked up a golf club and probably 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and like, oh yeah, it's still there somewhere. And I kind of went, as I said, I went on a little run there, had that, and then shot 60 at the South Course like a week later, and then maybe 2 weeks after that, shot low at Royal, and probably didn't translate it very well into tournament golf for the rest of the year, but had a nice little run back here, bullying a couple of courses.
Definitely. No, it's impressive stuff. And just a mate of mine, Mitch, who runs the pod with me. He's a member at Te Arai, and he always tells me some pretty interesting stories about, I believe, a story about a line you took on the sixth hole, which a par
Yeah.
four kind of up the hill. Doug White loves to chat about it, but taking it left of that sort of big macrocarpa off the tee and cutting it onto the green, which I can't even fathom how big a carry that was. Is that true? And do you
Yeah.
have a good recollection of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the tee was on the right hand side, so there was an angle there anyway.
Mm.
And I can generally get driver up, and I think it was pretty strong sou'wester that day, so it's like down off the left, and I'm no good at drawing driver. Like I can hook it, but I can't. Like, there's no way I'm standing there and like drawing it around that tree with good flight. And my issue, which probably why I shoot some low scores in social golf, is like I can't help myself but taking a golf course on. Like I'll hit driver pretty much everywhere in social golf, no matter how narrow the golf. Like I'll stand on 15 at Te Arai and hit driver over everything at the green. Like you should never ever do that, but I just can't help myself. And it was one of those ones on 6. It's like, I could hit 2-1 down the right and hit sandwich in, but that's no fun. I was like, well, I might be able to get it close to the green. It was pretty firm. I can't remember what time of year it is, but I remember it had to be pretty firm. And I smashed drive. I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be pretty good. And get up there, and it's like 20 foot from the front flag, and I'm pretty sure I knocked it in for 2 as well.
I believe so. Yeah.
And it was it's amazing how many times I've been told that. Like I've never got close to it since. It was just one of those ones that I got it absolutely perfect. Obviously got a great bounce. But yeah, I've probably got that around a lot of courses that I've played. There are a lot of the holes at Royal, you get it on the right, the right day. You hit one, you get the right bounce and a little firm spot in the fairway. And I've had tee shots that I've probably not got within 30 yards of any other time, but just had one that's just gone crazy. I've definitely got some at Whitford like that from when I was a junior and used to probably hit it further than I did now, but no idea where it went. But I just hit one that would land perfect and go, well, I haven't literally got within 40 yards of that, but I've done it once. So yeah, that was just one of those days where I took it on and it kind of worked out. But I guarantee there's probably 10 other times I've tried to do it and I've completely stuffed it up, and I've hit it in those bushes or hit a big flare down the right, left myself 50 yards, 60 yards up that hill over the bunker with no shot. So it's something I'd never do in a tournament, but it's fun to do in social golf.
Yeah, I mean, some of those lines at Te Arai are so interesting because I had Bryce Casey on the pod like a couple of weeks before Christmas, just after he played with you, and I think must have been Joel Little out there. But yeah, he put a video up of you taking on 15, which is obviously a pretty bold line. And he said that you thread the needle pretty perfectly there, and then I believe he said you also took it over the corner on 18, which is pretty cool as well. So yeah.
I mean, 18, it was a little downwind that day.
Yeah.
And obviously that tee's a little forward than it used to be. It used to be back in the trees a little bit more, but since they changed 17, that tee box was well in play on 17. So, I think it's only like 300, 290 front edge over the corner, and it was downwind. Like, I think I hit that in the middle of the green for memory, and I can't remember what I shot with Bryce, but it was a pretty good score for memory. And just hit that middle of the green and kind of two-putted. And like, it's one of those ones that probably looks like a funny line, but there's not a lot up by that green, to be honest. Like, it's almost a harder tee shot for me to hit it down the fairway with a 2-iron or a 4-iron than the carry. If I pull it, it's still going to carry up by by the left of the green, and I might have a tricky little chip, but you can still get the chip 10 feet relatively easy. If I flare it, I'm just going to end up, 40 yards short of the green, chipping up the hill. Again, not very nice, but very much in play. And then I had a good one and ended up on the green, and all looks nice and easy. The one on 15 I should never do, but I always do because it's just kind of fun. It has to be downwind to do it, obviously, but like I remember that day with Bryce, I hit it like 20 short of the green in the middle of the fairway, and it's just dead. I was kind of chipping over the edge of the bunker to the back pin, and you're like, I've just got nothing. I should be back in the fairway with like a pitching wedge in hand, and it's a pretty easy flag to get to. But as I said, I just kind of do stupid stuff like that in social golf because that's what kind of keeps me interested most of the time.
Definitely. No, got to have the juice there. And in terms of other courses in New Zealand, Have there been any that you feel like maybe have not gotten the better of you, but maybe that you still haven't quite unlocked? I've heard that you've played Kinloch off the back tees and had a very good showing. I think Tom Long said he played with you one time off the back tees there. But any other courses, or are there any courses in New Zealand you haven't played and you want to? I guess.
Um, I've I've played Jackson Kidnappers once each,
Mm.
so I probably feel like I need a better go around them. I think both of them are fantastic. Kidnappers is obviously spectacular. And I think I got Kidnappers when it started to get pretty windy, and obviously it's pretty nasty that some of those holes on that back nine in the wind. So I'd like another go on that on a decent day. I think Jack's I got pretty windy as well. So again, would like another go on that. But I've got really good memories of that as a golf course. One golf course that always used to get me was Namutu.
Lucky, yeah.
The OB stakes everywhere, just off the right side of a lot of fairways, used to really rack me up. But that was another one of those courses, a little bit like Titirangi. I think I shot 62 in a Pro-Am there for the Taranaki Open one year, and I was like, oh, why is this golf course so hard? And ended up finishing, I think I was like 5 over through 8 to start the tournament. I'm like, oh yeah, this is back to normal. I ended up finishing second, I think, that week, so I kind of figured it out by the end of the week. But Paraparam, I love. Haven't played there in a long time. We played an interprovincial there. I can't remember what year it would have been. Maybe 2009, 10, something 11, maybe. I never played. Had a couple of decent rounds around there, but never shot anything low. What else would I? I've never played Arrowtown. I'd like to play it. I've just heard it's fun. Like, it's obviously quirky and rocks and fairways, but everyone raves about it when they play it. So I'd like to play that. There's obviously a couple of new ones coming in various places, and would love a chance to play those when they eventually open. What else? I've been lucky. I've pretty much
Covered all the bases.
Covered most of the bases. I haven't played Kinloch as much as I would like. I think Kinloch's a fantastic golf course. I don't think I've ever shot stupid low around there. Probably only played it half a dozen times, but really enjoyed playing there when I have. I really like what they've done to Wairaki over the last few years. I think this probably sounds bad, but almost the best thing that happened to that golf course was the greenkeeper destroying the greens and forcing them to go to sand base. Because after playing that, after they'd redone it to sand, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a few years, but we had a Pro-Am down there during COVID, and it was absolutely brilliant to play. And that's got a real challenge off the back tees. You've got to hit some shots around there. You've got a variety of shots to hit, which is cool. Where else? Like, I actually think, Tiaki, I've played that a few times since it's open. I think that's a good test of golf. Got to drive it relatively well around there. Maybe not super long, but you can stretch it out. There's a couple of like random tee boxes you can go to that they don't really play as members, which I've played once with Phil Tartarangi and said, hey, look, there's a tee box back here, play from here. And that was pretty cool to play like that. Made a couple of tee shots really interesting, and stretched the golf course out a little bit. Trying to think what else. Obviously I played the Pro-Am circuit when I first turned pro. Played amateur golf around New Zealand for a lot of years, so most of the tournament courses around the place, Russley, Shirley, the old Shirley golf course, I haven't played it since it's been redone, but damn, that old golf course was fantastic. We've got a lot of really good club courses that are really fun to play. Maybe don't have the length, but have a lot of really good holes in them. Shirley's one, obviously. I think Paraparam just stands alone as it's not one of the high end ones that you think of. When you Tariti, Tiari, Cowrie, Cape, all of those. But Paraparam, fits really well with all of those courses as a layout. Like it's a fantastic layout. Yeah, we've got a lot of really good, as I said, club courses around. Yeah, which are really fun to play as members, I reckon. And to come back and play like socially, I really enjoy that style of golf where you can take stuff on and hit driver everywhere, and try to shoot lights out and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're right. There is pretty amazing depth, and obviously, like what you mentioned, more people coming to New Zealand. One of the big visitors late in 2024 was Rory, and I believe you got to play a couple of times with him while he came just for a few days. But talk to me about what that was like, seeing him play around, Taraiti and Te Arai, and I believe you got the better of him. Is that correct in terms of scoring? Obviously,
Yeah,
getting a few members bounces and the like.
yeah. So it was. I got the invite. Jim had organised the game with Rory. So we just played Tarity just once.
Yeah,
I've obviously played with Raws a decent amount.
yeah,
On tour, played a couple of practice rounds with him. I chatted to him a lot. He's a legend. Really awesome guy. By all accounts, hasn't changed since he first got on tour. Is just the same dude, even with all the success, which is really cool to see. Um, and yeah, like for him to come down in his spare time and play in New Zealand is pretty incredible. Like he's a busy man. He gets pulled in all directions, and he had a mate who's a member. And he's like, yeah, he'd been wanting to come down for ages, and he's always asked, what's it like? I was like, mate, you got to come down. It's awesome. And then obviously, this is probably before even Te Arai Links opened. And then it's a pretty easy little trip there, right? You've got 3 world-class golf courses within 15 minutes of each other. They played one of the Te Arai courses. I can't remember which one it was. But we played at Tariti, and they'd played the day before, and I think 2 or 3 holes in, I was like, "Well, Rawls, what do you think, mate?" And he goes, "Well, I had pretty high expectations, and it's exceeded those." And when he's played everywhere in tournament conditions, everything, and for him to say something like that, like it kind of validates what, like I think of it, I think what a lot of people in New Zealand that have had a chance to play Tariti think of it, what a lot of people worldwide think of it, but to have him say it, it's like, okay, well, you've got to respect his opinion on that. And yes, for him to come down and play was awesome. The Kiwi public treated him great. The members at Tariti were brilliant. Like let him have his space, and I think he just had a great time with some of his mates. And I would say both of us didn't play that well that day. Jim was very dangerous off his 6, and Jim and I beat Rory and Jimmy Dunn, which is a pretty deadly partnership. And as Jimmy put it, if at lunch afterwards, he goes, "If you lose with Rory McIlroy as your partner, you know where you've got to go. You've got to go to the fucking range." And so we had a bit of a laugh about that. And Rory and I didn't have a match. Might have got him by a couple, but it was kind of like he was just having fun. Hit a couple of shots that he'd never have hit in a tournament, trying to take something on, and rope a 3-wood into a hole because he was kind of in between clubs. Like I rate that. That's what you should do in social golf. Have a bit of fun and take stuff on. If it works, great. If it doesn't, oh hey, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it was nice to get them in a match. I've lost enough times to Jim over the years to know he's dangerous, and to have him as a partner, I was pretty happy that day. And he did his job very, very well, and I contributed enough at the end there just to keep it out of reach for those boys.
Is it true you made a pretty large putt when you door me up on 17 to close it out? Is that right?
Yeah, I think for memory, Jim had hit it in relatively close anyway, and I hit it over the back and then hold it from over the back for birdie and just to finish them off. And I think Rory gave me a little bit of a cheeky jab there. I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough, I deserve that. But it was it was nice to get one over those guys. It's a nice scalp to have, and it was a nice little partnership there between Jim and I. We both contributed very, very nicely there, and that's kind of what you want in a match.
Definitely. And I know you're on the record as saying like you think Rory's driver is the biggest weapon in golf. And what was it like just seeing him hit driver on some of those holes? Jim was saying, I think it was on the 7th hole there, like or the sixth hole. I'm not just trying to remember, but the one down the perimeter. But sort of you let one fly and you pick the tee up the ground pretty quick, and then Rory just kind of kicks it up a gear. What's it like seeing it when he really revs it up?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a few times in tournaments as well, and it's really annoying. Like I was probably down a little bit on what I have had in the past, but was still even 5 years ago when I was at my peak, I probably still wouldn't have had what he has. Like it's perfect. Like you can't teach what he does with driver. It's so optimal. Like he hits obviously a long way up on it with not that much loft. It doesn't spin, and it just doesn't really move much in the air. Like he can tip it both ways. But even into the wind, like I've always been relatively good into the wind. I can flatten the ball flight out pretty well and get some run. It might have been the fifth hole, the par five, and I had a decent drive down the middle, and I think I would have hit driver off the deck maybe and not been able to get there in two. And Rory's hit just a normal flight driver like 25 by me and then just hit three wood to the middle of the green.
Wow.
And you're like, yep, okay, fair enough. Like I've hit two good shots there. There's not many people that probably are going to hit it past me on that. There's a few guys on tour that's got a bit more speed, but I've hit two. Pretty happy with those two shots, and yeah, he's had me cumulatively by about 40.
Wow.
I'm like, yep, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely like watching even the ball speed numbers at home. Like a few years ago, he was kind of floating around that like 183, 184, and then he could kind of push one out 187. And now it feels like he's kind of cruising at 187 and like pushes it out 191, 192 in terms of ball speed. Like it's pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, like I've chatted to him about this a little bit. Like he has picked up a little bit of speed, but like I don't think he's like I think 90's like the top end.
Yeah,
but it's because it's so optimal. Like it spins it. I don't know exactly what its spin rate is, but it's got to be around 2,000, which is probably low for most guys. But because he launches it high, it's fine, and it's just like he gets the absolute most out of the numbers. Like there's guys that are faster than him. Yeah, there's quite a few guys that are probably faster than him on tour, especially some of the young guys now. But consistently, he just has such a good flight that he keeps up with everyone in that sense. Like his 85 is like most guys that are 90. You watch him play with. I watched a little bit of the end of season stuff on the DP World Tour when he's playing with Marco Penge, and Marco's got more speed than him. There's no contest, but Rory is in the same place the whole time. Marco's probably got 5 mile an hour on him for the most part. Marco's got mid to low 90s pretty consistently, like high 80s most of the time. But Rory's 86, 87 is keeping up with Marco's 92, 93 just on flight alone, and that's just what he's got. And like you play with Rory, and you just watch it and go, you don't go necessarily, I can't beat that, but I can't do what he does. Like I've got to play a golf course a different way than he plays it. I'm pretty sure everyone in the world has to play the golf course a different way than what Rory has to play it. He's just got all the shots. He can do kind of anything he wants with the golf ball. The height he can get it to come down on, especially with his long irons, is freakish. Woods and stuff. And you look at some of the shots he's hit to win tournaments and coming down the stretch. The ones at the K Club. There's a couple of woods into par fives on 16 and 18 that he hit that I still talked about to this day on tour. Obviously you see the highlights of it, but when tour players are talking about the shots he hits into holes and they remember, and it becomes folklore on tour, you've got something special, and Rory's got a lot of that.
Yeah, incredible stuff and fantastic insight. And obviously now moving into 2026, a great lineup of venues, especially for the majors coming up. When these majors venues get released, and you're kind of assessing your schedule for the years ahead, how much does course fit for you come into it? Obviously, that plays a tremendous part into probably how you kind of fancy yourself in terms of confidence moving in week to week. But in terms of majors, you got Royal Birkdale for the Open, you've got Shinnecock Hills for the US Open, and then Aronimink for the PGA. I mean, have you played those venues specifically before many times, and what are your kind of thoughts on them moving into the season?
Yeah, venues are a funny one. Like, obviously, playing a golf course that you know and you like helps. But I've also had really good weeks on golf course that I haven't liked at all and hated and didn't think fitted. You just have a good week.
Yeah.
So, and I've had, I love Portrush, and I had an awful week. Well, I missed the cut by one, but the start at Portrush I had this year was atrocious, and it just sometimes it just doesn't work. But in terms of this year, I mean, obviously Augusta's Augusta. It's amazing. I've never played a Ronimink, but heard really good things about that. I've played Birkdale. I missed the cut there by one, but that's in 2017, I want to say, and that's a proper golf course. I think there's been a couple of changes there, but for the most part, it's pretty much what we played. Can be an absolute brute if the wind gets up, which is most links golf courses. I still remember that golf course from Norman leading and Harrington chasing him down, hitting that incredible shot on 17. And you talk to Paddy about that shot, and it's like it's nothing. And then you stand there and where he hit it and what trouble's up near the green, and he's just hit a 5-wood off an upslope and turned it into a left to right wind. You're like, nope. Like, to hit that shot to win an Open's pretty incredible. So, like, it's a really cool major venue, pretty iconic major venue, that one. Shinnecock, it's got to be one of the best golf courses in the world and got to be one of the scariest golf courses in the world. I played in 18 when that was my first US Open. That was the one where Phil hit the moving ball.
Yeah.
I was a few groups after Phil. I've never been so scared on greens in my life. I putted one off the 15th green there that day. There was a massive crowd around the 15th green. I couldn't work out why. And I had a putt from like 30 feet short of the hole. And I'd hit two shots exactly where I wanted to hit them. And at no point did I think my ball was going off the green until it got to the hole. And I'm like, oh no. And it rolls, 2 yards off the back of the green. I putted up to 4 foot, made the 4-footer and walked off a 5. And saw my playing partner, who hit it to 15-foot pin high left, putt it off the green and make 6 from somewhere you theoretically can't. Like, the USGA needs to be very, very careful around there. Like, the running thing with Shinnecock is maybe not now in the middle of winter, but during their playing season, you could ask them to hold a US Open. They'd be ready to hold it the next week. Like, you don't need to do anything to it. And it's always the USGA, I think, as running a tournament is always a little bit of a worry for whatever reason. They tend to fluctuate between being too nasty one year and then making sure they don't cop flack the next year for making it too nasty. Oakmont this year was one of the most brutal tests of golf I've ever had. Like, that was, last year now. That was scary, and Shinnecock's got the chance to be that very, very easily again. So I'm looking forward I'm not in that one yet. I'm in the other 3, but obviously I've got a pretty good chance to play my way into Shinnecock. I would love to go back, but I'm, also US Open always feels like one of those weeks that if you do miss out on it, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, you just get beaten up and feel shit about yourself after playing it for a week. Like, it's just that hard.
Yeah, it's interesting looking, like what you say, like historically, I think 2004 they had the US Open there and they basically lost the greens one of the days. Yeah.
The last 2 they've had there, they've completely stuffed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's not gone down well with the guys. I remember talking to Adam Scott about 04, and he's like, they lost the golf course then, and they lost the golf course again in 18, and then they absolutely crap themselves on Sunday, and Tommy goes out and shoots 63 and almost wins the tournament. Like, if you shot 63 the day before, I think Finau and Berger shot 66 from making the cut on the number, and we're in the last group on Sunday.
Incredible.
Like, if you shot 63 in the afternoon on Saturday that day, you've had more chance of playing 9 holes than you have of playing 18. Like, it's that hard.
Yeah, well, hopefully they kind of strike the balance this year, and just, by the sounds of it, just like what you say, any given week it's pretty hard, so not much needs to be done to trick it right up, and in terms of losing some of those greens, but I guess we'll wait and see. And in terms of, tour life, it's great to see now, Dan Hillier making a real good splash on the professional circuit. Obviously, he's just missed out on his PGA Tour card for the coming year, but is that a great finish to the season just been? And like yourself, got the Te Arai Links logo on his bag. I mean, what's it like, being able to see his career from afar and get to spend some time with him, because it's been some pretty special stuff.
Yeah, it's been awesome to get to know Dan over the last few years. Obviously, I knew a lot of him when he was coming up. Like, he was heavily touted coming through the amateur ranks, and I can see why. Like, he's an absolute flusher. Had a couple of issues chipping maybe the last couple of years, but sorted that out. He's chipping the ball really nicely now, and you watch him, and he's just got it. Like, I love spending time with him. It's funny on tour. Like, I wish he'd have been on tour a couple of years earlier when I was playing full time in Europe. Because when I'm in Europe now, like, we'd have dinner 3 or 4 nights a week. And I didn't really have that when I was playing, full time out in Europe. Josh Geary was out there a little bit, but it's always nice to have someone from your own country around. Dan and I have some pretty similar interests. We both love wine, so there's a bit of bonding over that during the week. Nothing silly, but having a glass of wine at night is always a nice thing to do. Always make sure we play practice rounds together. In any of the events we're paired together, or we're both playing. It's to play Chasing the Fox with him at the back end of last year. That was awesome. Like, we had a lot of fun doing that, and thankfully we got the win there as well. That would have been there was a bit of pressure on to do that, but yeah, he's a brilliant dude, and he's to be able to see someone like that come through the ranks. Like, he's got it. He's gonna succeed. He works hard at it. Now, he's had a couple of hiccups coming down the stretch the last few events, but he's putting himself there. Like, it's all a learning experience. He's going to win something really big soon. I have no doubt he'll be on the PGA Tour in the coming years. Obviously got very, very close, and a bit gutting for him this year, but yeah, he's got it. He's good. It's not just him coming through, but obviously he's right there. But Kazuma Kabori had a great year. Nick Folk, Ben Campbell. I'm going to forget people here because there's a Denzel Urmia. We've got a lot. Sam Jones has been playing. He was on obviously European Tour a couple of years ago. Gave it a good run getting back there from Challenge Tour this year. We've got a couple of guys playing Corn Ferry. Obviously, Steve Alker's doing what he's doing on the Champions Tour. Liz is doing what she's always done on the LPGA Tour. We're doing pretty well as a country at the moment on the world stage, and it's pretty awesome to see that so many Kiwis are going well, and we always try to catch up and play practice rounds and stuff together when we're all at the same events, and that's really, really cool, because that's pretty different than it was when I first got on tour. Like, there wasn't too many Kiwis out there. Mike Hendry's still playing well in Japan. We've always had a lot of guys playing Aussie, but we've had a lot of guys branch out now. And girls as well. Amelia Garvey's going well. Momoka Kabori in the LET. Fiona Zhu was playing LPGA this year. Like, there's a lot of guys and girls playing really well around the world, and that's really cool to see.
Completely echo your sentiments. Like, it's so good to see so many people, making great runs, and hopefully, there's some good depth coming through. We had Cooper Moore on the pod at the beginning of last year.
I've never met him, golfer. But I've heard very, very good things about his golf game.
Yeah, playing off a +6 at like 15 around Clearwater off the back tees is always pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's one I've never figured out. I haven't played it since the New Zealand Open in 2011. But yeah, that course had my number big time.
Yeah, so really good to see. And you mentioned there, obviously, Chasing the Fox, which was, it kind of goes from strength to strength each year, and you've got your event in Waihi, and like we mentioned, the Ryan Fox Invitational around the sort of composite routing. Is that like a real intentional thing for you to come back and kind of, invest your time into these events in New Zealand and kind of give back? Because obviously it's a pretty full-on schedule, and you've got, young family, so, time is of the essence for you, but sort of the golfing community has been really blessed with you coming in and really giving yourself and your time and your resources to have these events up and going. Has that been a conscious thing for you?
Yes and no. I think it's just kind of happened as well. You know, the one in Waihi, the Fox, originally that was supposed to be me and Stephen Donald hosting that, and then I ended up hosting. I'm going, I can't really host. I'm not a big enough name, and it's gone really, really well. You know, we've got a massive wait list of teams from the last 2 or 3 years to play it, and it's great. It's the same people that want to play it every year. It's awesome and really fun event. And you know, that was just something that Kelson Butler came to me and said, "Hey, let's host an event like that for charity, and you can fish and golf, and that all works." And mum and dad have had a place in Waihi Beach. So I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that sounds like fun." And so that's went from an event that, you know, maybe after the first year we were touch and go, and then it went really well after that. Chasing the Fox was kind of the same thing. You know, Nick Randall came to me with the idea. You know, 4 years ago and said, "Hey, this will be pretty cool." And we kind of thought about a format like, okay, we'll give it a go, see if it works. And we probably got lucky the first year without John Key's hole in one. I'm not sure we would have kept going.
Pretty iconic.
That was crazy, absolutely crazy. And then, you know, year two was a bit messy, but it had more interest. And then obviously 2024 was a massive step up in that. And then the one in 25 last year was just incredible. Like, we might have a little bit to iron out TV wise, but in terms of the event, it was amazing. It's really busy. It's pretty hectic for us on the golf course. It's you know, the crowd's really close. Everyone gets involved. You're getting pulled all over the place, signing stuff. I'm glad we played with a partner last year because it got a little bit hard with your own, like, to concentrate playing your own ball as well. Like, you want to talk to people and you want to interact. You want to be able to sign stuff, but you know, you've got 6 holes to try to make 4 birdies. Like, I know it's off the front tees, but if you miss a couple of putts early, you're out of it. So it was nice playing with a partner there this year. And as I said, you know, having Dan being out, he was playing great golf, and a bit of pressure on us to get it done, but glad we did. And you know, the Ryan Fox Invitational was sort of one of those things. You know, Royal wanted to host a Pro-Am and thought, hey, well, Foxy, do you want to put your name to it? And thought, yep, that'd be great. And they just kind of all lined up in a row this year. It was a really busy 5 days, but you know, pretty cool to be able to do that, to have some events with my name on it. Like, I've said it at Chasing the Fox every year, and it's the same in Waihi, to be honest, as well. Like, we've had some great celebrity skippers down there. We've had a great field of amateurs and pros come to play both the Invitational and Chasing the Fox, and to have all these people want to come and play events with my name on it is pretty awesome. So hopefully, you know, they can keep going for years to come. You know, the Invitational, we softened a little bit this year because I think we scared a few people the first couple of years. So I think we might have found the formula a little bit better last year compared to the first 2 years. And you know, Chasing the Fox has gone great the last couple of years. You know, and we're locked in for a few more years for that, which is really cool. And yeah, I think we've got the format right for that. We've just got a few little tweaks to make here and there every year. But yeah, we're in a good place. And Waihi, as I said, it's going great guns, and it's cool to be involved in it, and you know, see so many people just enjoy being around golf in New Zealand. It's really, well, what's the right term? It feels like it's got golf in general has got really big in this country since COVID, basically. Like, you know, golf courses are buzzing. It's hard to get tee times anywhere. It's you know, there's lots of young kids playing. I've got so many mates playing that started playing in the last 5 years that wouldn't have entertained it at school. And it's really cool to see that. And you know, if some of these events that I'm hosting are a little bit of a part of that, well, that's awesome. But if not, this, from my point of view, they're still really, really cool to be a part of.
Definitely. And obviously, like we say, those events and golf, you know, really booming, and hopefully it continues to head that way over the coming years. And, you know, just before I'll let you go, just a few sort of quick questions to kind of finish. I mean, I understand you took a trip with a few of your mates to Tasmania, King Island, and kind of got blown off the planet by the sounds, and you went back a day early. But in terms of international golf courses, are there any that are on your bucket list that you haven't been to yet? Obviously, you know, not easy for you in terms of like freeing up the time to just go to some really remote place like Sand Hills or whatever. But are there some that you got circled?
Yep. So there's 2 in the US that I'd love to play. Cyprus and Pine Valley. They feel, obviously there's heaps in the US, but they feel like the 2 real iconic ones that I'm missing. So I probably know a couple of guys that are members. I just need to potentially ask a question there and find some time to be able to do it. I'd love to play Peninsula Kingswood in Melbourne. I've not played that since it's been redone, and everyone that I've talked to that's played it just raves about it. There's a few around the UK. I love links golf, so like I finally did North Berwick last year after staying on the golf course for like 5 years in a row and not playing it. I finally played it at the week of the Scottish Open last year, and I was glad I did that. I'd love to go back to Turnberry. I played that on a horrific day, and played really good and shot 79 off the back tee. So I'd like to go play that on a day that was slightly more playable. That course they played the European Tour event, Trump, is it Aberdeen?
Trump Aberdeen, yeah.
Everyone raves about that. I'd love to go play that. There's a few more in in Scotland and Ireland, like Royal Dornoch, Dunbarney, Old Head, Portmarnock. There's a pretty big list in that part of the world to go and play. That new one that's going to open in Tasmania is at 7 Mile Beach. I've heard that's going to be pretty awesome, so I'd love to do that. Outside of that, can't really think of too much. Played a lot of really good golf courses around the world, and a lot of them in tournament conditions as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic stuff. And I know that obviously your career and Tiger's career haven't kind of overlapped in terms of like PGA Tour starts, but I believe you were a big Tiger fan growing up. Have you got, I know you haven't played with Tiger, but have you got to meet Tiger, speak to Tiger? And in terms of like, you talk about shots in folklore, I feel like Tiger's got
all of them,
a million almost of them. Do you have any kind of like favorites from growing up watching Tiger?
There's the chip in on 16 at Augusta, like the iconic one where the Nike ball like falls in the hole, like the best advertisement you could ever have for Nike. That's the one that sticks out. The 3-iron over from that fairway lip at Hazeltine, like that's
mental.
Like he's hit some amazing shots. The one he hit against Grant Wade out of the bunker at Canadian Open, but that 3-iron out of the bunker could well be the best golf shot that's ever been hit. Like when you've got Ernie Els like and the peak of his powers, like bowing down to Tiger, just going like, mercy, please, like, you can't do that. Like, yeah, there's stuff like that. I did get to meet him once at Portrush in 2019. Booked a practice round with a couple of Aussie boys and rolled down to the tee. And the starter comes up to me because I was the only one that had played a couple of Opens before. And he goes, "Oh, look, Mr. Fox, I'm really sorry. But we've had a mix up with tee times. You guys are going to be 7:40 instead of 7:30 or something like that." But he goes, "Oh, Mr. Woods will be off before you." And we all kind of turn around. And Tiger's just leaning against the hoardings at the back. And you're like, oh, okay. So Tiger gets up, like doesn't really say anything the whole time. And so we're all gets up, phones out, watching him hit shots. And he gets up and he hits 5 wood dead down the middle of the first. And then he looks up and he goes, "Oh, boys, I'm only playing the first because I'm going to go play the back 9. You got to play like 1, then 13, I think, to play the back 9. And he goes, I'm only playing the first. You're welcome to join me." And before he finished that sentence, Dimi Papadatos goes, "Yep." And I was the only one ready. So I just get up, kind of whack it somewhere and play down there. Kind of have a couple of chats to Tiger just about the golf course and what he thinks. And yeah, like it was when his back was real bad. So I think, he was in a bit of pain walking down that first hole, and just he was very good at hiding it. And then he gets up, hits 9-iron to like 4 foot, taps the 4-footer and just walks off and goes, "Hey, have a good week, boys," and just wanders off, and we're just like, what the hell just happened? But the best part about that story, so my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were there for the tourney, and my best mate was flying in from Singapore like the next day, and my brother-in-law had shared a cart with Tiger to the range that morning. You get inside the ropes passes that you're supposed to use for coaching, caddy and stuff, but everyone just gives them to their mates. And so I give them to my brother-in-law, and my best mate turns up the next day, and I've been playing golf with him since we're like 10 years old. And he's like, "You're fucking kidding, right? Like you've played a hole with Tiger and I'm not there. You're such," I can't repeat the next word, but like basically abusing me. And so it was that was probably the best part about that whole Tiger thing, is I played a hole with Tiger and he wasn't there to be a part of it, just to wind him up.
Just incredible stuff. And so I guess last couple in New Zealand, if you had a favorite par 3, favorite par 4, and favorite par 5, you know, what springs to mind for you?
Oh damn, I'm not very good at this.
Obviously more and more to choose from each year, basically.
Okay, par 3. It's a toss up between 15 and 17 at Tar 80. I think those probably two of the best par 3s in the country. Like probably best pair of par 3s in the country. Pretty hard to beat anywhere in the world. So take your pick, one of those two. Par 4.
Normally we just truncate par 4, actually just a short par 4 kind of makes it easier.
Short par 4, okay. Problem is there's a big memory bank to pick from here. Oh dear. No, okay, I'm gonna pass for a second on that and think about it.
Good.
Par 5. Damn, I'm not very good at this either. I've legitimately never thought of this until maybe the par 3s I've thought of, but I've never thought of the par 5s or par 4s until now, and I'm trying to go through everything in my head really, really quickly. In terms of par 5s, and I don't think it's the best hole, but it's the kind of quirkiest par 5. Is it 14 at Wairaki, the Wrecker?
Yeah, that's the one we've had plenty of answers for. They've taken the tree out. I don't know if you've played it.
Yeah, I actually think that's better because the green's nasty enough. But
it's pretty memorable. Definitely, I think par 5 tend to not be as memorable.
It's definitely not the best par 5 in the country, but it's potentially the most memorable par 5 in the country.
Yeah.
Actually, the Pirates Planket Kidnappers, what is that, 15?
15, yeah.
That's not, again, maybe not one of the best, but definitely one of the most revered holes.
Yeah.
Short par 4. Oh, give it. What have other people said?
We get a lot of 7s at Taraiti. You know,
yeah.
The short. We some people 14 at Te Arai South, the first at Te Arai North. 6 at Paraparam, 6 at Jack's Point.
I haven't played Jack's enough to remember that hole, which sucks. Oh, actually, 5 at the Hills.
Yeah, 5 at the Hills. Awesome. Yeah, a little plateau green.
Like, kind of drivable, but never drivable. But it's got, like, the nastiest little second shot. And it's like, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's the perfect one because you can't quite hit the green. But it's like, if you take it on and get it, like, just short left of the green, it's kind of an easy pitch up the green. But if you lay it back, it's a really easy layup, but a really hard second shot. So I kind of like that in golf. To be fair, if you're going through the hills, like, 17 as a par 5 is pretty hard to beat as well. I imagine that's come up a couple of times.
Yeah, 17 is pretty iconic. Yeah, when we did a vote of best 17th holes in New Zealand, I think it was Paraparumu won that one, but the Hills was in second place. So pretty.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot to go. Yeah, I've played a lot of the courses around New Zealand. It's kind of as I said, I've legitimately never actually thought, or maybe the par threes I've thought of, but not the rest of it.
Yeah. No, awesome stuff. And last question.
And par threes, the fifth hole on the south course at Te Arai is
Beautiful.
pretty damn good too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
17 on the south course is pretty good. But yeah, that's got a couple of good par threes too.
Definitely. And sort of final question, which I don't know if you thought about either, but if you could have 3 memberships anywhere in the world, where would you have them?
Okay. I would go probably Tariti here because I'd have to have something in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'd go Augusta purely because that's the hardest place to get in as a member and like the coolest place to take people you could do. Like the old course.
Yeah, like a member of the RNA.
The member of the RNA, like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Seminole would be right up there as well. Like that's a really cool golf course and a really cool place to be a member.
And you've won the member guest there, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Dunn. Me and Jimmy Dunn won the member guest there, which was brilliant. I got the invite back, thankfully. So looking forward to defending that title this year.
Yeah. No, well, fantastic stuff. Well, look, Ryan, I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. And
sorry for being late with my time too.
No dramas at all. Easy for me just to sink into watching. Unfortunately, Steve Smith keep making runs while I was preparing.
That is always unfortunate.
Yeah, but you look, really appreciate you taking the time, and really appreciate all you do for golf in New Zealand, and wishing you the best for 2026, and hopefully another few dubs on the board.
Thanks, Charlie. Cheers, mate.